It's Thursday, November 26, and time for your Barbados Today morning news update. LIAT is set to resume operations next Monday, and Barbados is on the regional airlines flight plan, which also includes 6 other Caribbean destinations, namely Antigua, Dominica, Grenada, St. Lucia, St. Kitts, and St. Vincent. We get the details in this ABS News report.
Director of Flight Operations, Captain Arthur Senhouse, discussing the airline's new flight schedule set to begin next Monday. He says data show there is still demand for LIAT service, and the ultimate plan is to move people from as far north as Puerto Rico down to Guyana. The first part of the new service, though, will run from November 30 to December 14 and will include stops in St. Kitts, Antigua, Dominica, St. Lucia, Barbados, St. Vincent, and Grenada.
They are some of our most profitable routes. Also, most of those islands lie within the OECS framework. So there are some standards that are common across those islands, and we're depending on the fact that the commonality will give us that platform and foundation so that we can launch and expand from each of those as they demand.
He says Tortola and Guyana are expected to be added December 15. The flight will run from Thursday to Monday with an average of 6 flights per day.
Our main effort is to ensure that once you board a LIAT flight on whichever day of the week you choose between Thursday and Monday, we're going to get you to your destination without you having to lay over in a different country, unlike some of the other carriers that are in the market at the moment.
Captain Senhouse says one of the challenges will be to navigate the rapid changes in the COVID protocols among the destinations. Meanwhile, the airline will be operating with a much leaner staff complement, a total of 163 workers compared to the 667 pre-pandemic.
Prime Minister Mia Mottley is disappointed that almost a year after she sounded the alarm that the CARICOM Development Fund was at risk and in need of a new funding model, very little progress had been made. She also suggested that the time had come for a review of the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas so greater emphasis could be placed on the renewable energy sector. Speaking during the launch of the Caribbean Center for Renewable Energy, the Energy Efficiency Project Preparation Facility, and the Credit Risk Abatement Facility, Mottley reiterated that the CDF needs a new financing model that would allow it to focus on resilience and growth within the region.
Regrettably, there has not been much progress made in that regard, and it does not allow us to ignore the fact that the CARICOM Development Fund is still not sufficiently capitalized to play the development role that we need it to play in this region, as was contemplated by the drafters and settlers of the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas, largely because it is impossible for you to have a single market and single economy without there being winners and without there being losers.
Government and private sector entities in Barbados have a new avenue for the build-out of renewable energy on the island. It's the Caribbean Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency and the CARICOM Development Fund jointly launched Project Preparation Facility and the Credit Risk Abatement Facility. Officials stressed the importance of the expansion of the renewable energy sector in the region, but agreed that the lack of financing from traditional sources continued to be a hindrance.
We all recognize the typical hesitation of the financial sector to participate in this vital area of sustainable energy financing. Critical impediments that they point out are the high risks, whether these are real or perceived, associated with SMEs, compounded by the lack of knowledge and experience in underwriting loans for projects related to renewable energy technologies and energy efficiency. To address this gap, which the CDF identified through various consultations with stakeholders, we developed the CRAF as an all-encompassing mechanism designed to help build the market for energy investment financing on both the supply and demand sides. So in that regard, the CRAF represents a creative solution to the related problems of energy sector knowledge deficit and information asymmetry, and it is geared at incentivizing financial institutions to provide incremental lending to SMEs for these projects in CARICOM.
That was the CDF Chief Executive Officer Rodinel Suma. The CRAF support pilot phase, which will begin in January 2021 and run for 1 year, will focus on 5 countries, namely Barbados, Belize, Guyana, St. Lucia, and Suriname. The National Cultural Foundation has launched innovative and modern projects to keep Barbadian creativity alive. Chief Executive Officer Carl Roberts Reefer made the disclosure during a cultural showcase at the Daphne Joseph Hackett Theatre entitled Things Bajan, featuring a group of local entrepreneurs who were part of the NCF's cultural catalogue. Given the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and its effects on the creative sector, she maintained it was the right time to push even harder to give local artists opportunities to develop their craft.
We were forced to look to see what was available in our immediate environment. And what a treasure trove we found. We found so many wonderfully crafted, designed, and produced items. From cookies and jams that you can sample outside, to fashion, to books, to music, to games, to just straight on entertainment. It was an amazing adventure. And so we thought that we would try to encapsulate a lot of it, not all of it, but a lot of it, into an online Bajan catalog. And so we're going to introduce you today to Get It Now. And this is a catalog of amazing Barbadian creatives and producers and their work. It's a wide variety of locally made items. The catalog provides a space that leads to more awareness, development, innovation, productivity, and exports. I encourage you to share this catalog as often as possible with as many people as possible. You're looking for a handbag, you're like me, you must have a handbag, they've got handbags. You're looking for food items, you're looking for greens to be delivered, future greens. And all of that just came from our forays out of sheer necessity onto digital platforms to see what's available. We also had no choice but to take our cultural community training program, which we had just launched online. We were forced to do that because of the lockdown and limitations for people to gather and train and interact in the way that we are accustomed.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To news from the region now, discussions continue with 5 prospective entities interested in investing with LIAT. We get more in this report from ABS News.
Several options were on the table when Cleveland Seaforth was appointed administrator to the beleaguered carrier back in July. Investment is paramount, with 5 entities showing interest. Seaforth will be seeking more time, between 3 to 6 months, from the court to complete his negotiations with them.
We are saying that based on where we are with discussions with prospective investors, of whom we have 5 of them who have expressed an interest, we felt we needed more time to sit down and have discussions with them to try and reach an agreement.
He reports that negotiations have reached to the point of discussing a memorandum of understanding with 2 of the stronger contenders, but he wants to be assured they have the necessary financial backing.
Where we've sat down and gone through and discussed the topics where we would want to get involved in more discussions so they can reach an agreement with the government of Antigua. From my perspective, I'm asking at this stage to show me proof of funds. And so that is the stage where we are at the moment.
Of the 5 prospects, 2 are airlines and the other 3 are private investors, eyeing a potentially rewarding venture. Seaforth says governments in the Caribbean are also maintaining interest.
And finally, the COVID-19 crisis has further exposed the violence against women and girls as a global emergency requiring urgent action. That's according to United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres. He made the comment at a virtual event to commemorate the International Day of Eliminating Violence Against Women.
The COVID-19 crisis has further exposed violence against women and girls as a global emergency requiring urgent action. Rates of violence, in particular domestic violence, have dramatically escalated around the world. It is clear that the pandemic has exacerbated risk factors and laid bare the shortcomings of previous efforts to prevent and respond to this shocking emergency. Millions of women are pushed further into poverty by the COVID-19 crisis, and all forms of violence against them are rising. In this context, the global community must continue to build on the momentum we have created to prioritize the voices, experiences, and needs of women and girls. We must take into account the needs of women who experience violence, particularly those who face multiple and intersecting forms of violence and discrimination. This means emerging from this crisis with women's leadership front and center in constructing the solutions we need.
That's news. But for the very latest, visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.